Now, Joe, often in the ESOP world, there's a recommendation that the company hire an independent institutional trustee. And generally, that would be a trust company that specializes in the area of ESOPs, or it might be an individual trustee who specializes in the ESOP area. Do you have any discussions about whether you should go to an institutional trustee? And what do you think the advantages and disadvantages might be of moving in that direction?
Yes, we have had discussions about potentially hiring an institutional trustee. I think it depends on the company. I think that some companies, I think, an institutional trustee may make good sense. In other companies, the company may be able to take more of that. The participants may be able to take more of that responsibility on themselves. I think it varies depending on the individual company. I think the advantages to having an institutional trustee are certainly a degree of independence, which is there. Certainly maybe a degree of specialized knowledge, which they would have. I think you potentially have the ability to move some of that liability off onto another party if you were to hire an institutional trustee. But that doesn't, just because you have an inside group of trustees or an individual trustee who's an insider, doesn't mean that they don't have the availability to hire an institutional trustee in the event that there would possibly be a conflict of interest. Or seek the advice of someone who acts as an institutional trustee, as an advisor, to work with them on a particular issue that they may choose to bring in that kind of expertise. So yes, I think there is a role for an institutional trustee in some companies as the trustee, if they choose that that's the route that they want to go. Or if you have an individual or an internal trustee, them being able to use an institutional trustee in the event of a transaction where there may be a conflict of interest, or in the instance where they may want to seek additional advice.
Have you ever considered bringing an individual who is an ESOP professional independent trustee onto the Board of Trustees as one member of the board?
Actually, yes, we've discussed that, and we have yet to decide whether or not we do definitely look at possibly pursuing that. What we want to decide is whether or not we want to bring that person on as an advisor to the Board of Trustees, or bring that individual on as a voting member of the Board of Trustees. That's yet to be determined. And that may be based, again, upon the quality of the individual and the comfort level of the individual that we feel. But certainly, yes, that is something we've definitely discussed.
When you've considered using an institutional trustee or an individual trustee who specializes in ESOP transactions, have you discussed how that might change the knowledge that the Board of Trustees has about the business itself and the economy in which you're operating? I assume that your current trustees are pretty familiar with the competitive situation of the business.
Yes, we have discussed that, and that was one of the concerns with hiring a institutional trustee as the sole trustee. From the standpoint of bringing them on as an advisor to the Board of Trustees, or as a voting member, one of 9, for example, or whatever it may be, certainly I think that that lessens that situation that you may have with the institutional trustee not having full knowledge of everything that goes on, from the standpoint of the company, but yet still provide the value from the standpoint of their knowledge of ESOPs and their knowledge of the legal environment surrounding ERISA plans and so forth. So I think you can get the best of both worlds by having inside trustees also working with an advisor who is an outside trustee, bringing that advisor on as a member of the Board of Trustees.
So with the trustees of Lewis Tree Service, you would say probably that they're aware of all these opportunities and would be willing and open to bringing in an outside trustee in the right circumstances?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely in the situation where there would be a conflict of interest. If a transaction were to arise where there could potentially be a conflict of interest with the internal trustees, I don't think there's any question that they would definitely consider bringing an institutional trustee on for the purposes of working through that transaction. And I think definitely that there's a desire to initially bring on someone who has worked as an institutional trustee, as an advisor to the Board of Trustees. And then possibly if they feel a comfort level with that individual, then bringing them on if that individual is willing to bring them on to the Board of Trustees as a voting member.